This is an extract from the Leader podcast by the Evening Standard, hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for us on your podcast provider.
8 in Spanish, 9 in language, and 8 in literature.
Oh, well done! That's amazing!
For a lot of GCSE students, it's been a very good day.
Yeah, I did quite well. I didn't get it for no reason. I worked hard for what I got, and I think that I deserve it.
Yeah, I'm extremely happy. I don't think I could have asked for better grades. I'm thankful for my mom and pushing me to work hard.
Yeah, I was a bit anxious about it because I didn't know because of the algorithm thing, but I was kind of relieved when they took the U-turn on the results and predicted the grades up as well.
Nearly 79% of the 600,000 taking them have been given a pass. 1 in 4 got top marks. So there were smiles of relief among many after a week of stress in which the government had to U-turn and let teacher assessments of their pupils replace the now thoroughly discredited algorithm that was brought in when exams were scrapped. But, as our editorial column points out, this isn't over yet.
This being the shambolic 2020 results month, not everything is rosy today. Around 500,000 pupils who have taken BTecs found out late last night that their results were being pulled. Pearson, the exam board responsible, is worried its grading is no longer consistent with the higher outcomes for GCSEs and A-levels that the use of teacher assessment has caused. Ministers, including the Prime Minister, should be ashamed of the entirely avoidable upset inflicted by their incompetence. None of this bodes well for the next big education task ahead, the reopening of schools in less than 2 weeks.
Our education editor Anna Davis is with me now. And Anna, let's start with the students themselves. A lot of them will be very proud today.
Yes, I think finally, now that they've got the results in their hands, I think a lot of teenagers are going to be relieved after the stress of not just the last few days and weeks, but the months, that they've sort of endured with their schools being closed. They have got really record-breaking results because these results are based on their teachers' assessments of how they would have done if they had sat the exam. So they are higher than normal because teachers tended to be more optimistic for their students.
When you're talking about record-breaking, Anna, how record-breaking has this year been?
Well, when you look at the top grades, 25.9% of entries were given a 7, 8 or a 9, which are the top grades. Last year that was 20%. So these students, they have done much better than previous years. They've also been through a lot more than previous years have been through, with all the uncertainty, with being locked down and missing school. So, there is an argument that, this is an anomaly this year, and we need to just give them these grades and move on.
Yeah, I think it's kind of important to stress that these grades haven't come out of nowhere. They're not just made up. The students have put in a lot of work to get the grades that they achieved today. Yes,
they have. We're calling them teacher-assessed grades, but officially they're centre-assessed grades because it wasn't one individual teacher who came up with the grade. The whole school was involved. They've been through a rigorous process. They've taken into account any mocks and how the student was projected to be doing. So a lot of thought did go into them. They weren't just plucked out of the air.
So deserved celebrations going on in households around the country, but for some people, this isn't over yet. We still have these BTec results to come. What's going on with those, Anna?
Yes, they were due to come out today alongside the GCSE results. And last week, the A-level equivalent BTec results were actually published. But since the changes to the way GCSEs and A-levels have taken place, now the BTecs would be sort of unfairly graded in comparison to those. So they're now going to remark the BTecs in the same way as the A-levels and GCSEs, which is going back to the teacher assessments. BTecs tend to have a bit more coursework because, of course, GCSEs and A-levels now don't contain much coursework at all. So using teacher assessments have more of an impact on those grades. We don't know exactly when they're going to be re-released, and we think next week, but it's still not quite clear.
Thank you, Anna. Our political editor, Joe Murphy's also with me. Joe, the schools minister was doing the rounds this morning. What's he been saying about all this?
Well, it was very interesting, David, that Nick Gibb was being very careful not to be overtly pointing the finger, but nevertheless, that's what he did. So he said, we had a model, and that model was agreed by everybody. In fact, he used the word popular to describe it, and that was a model which he says was designed to prevent disadvantaged kids losing out, and he said it would have moderated grades in a fair way. And he says what went wrong was after that model had been devised, the implementation of it and the algorithm. And the algorithm, he says, that was the responsibility of Ofqual. So rather than point the finger, he's tried to divide up responsibilities. The model, of course, is what they wanted to achieve, and the algorithm, he says, was something completely separate. But there's some flaws in that, as you can probably see.
Labour, though, are very directly pointing fingers at Gavin Williamson, the Education Secretary.
They are. They're saying he was warned and he didn't do anything about it. And I think they'll very soon pick up on something else that Nick Gibbs said, which is that he said he didn't see the algorithm that he says was to blame until it was published on Thursday. So there are some big accusations that Labour are going to pick up on. One is that it's confirmed that they were warned by Sir John Coles, who's a former DG in the Department of Education, who, from retirement from that post, wrote in saying, look, there's going to be unfairness when this is done, and it could disadvantage vulnerable or pupils from poorer backgrounds. Labour says Gavin Williamson did nothing about that. Nick Gibbs says, well, actually, we did. I talked to Ofqual about those concerns and went away satisfied. But I think Nick Gibbs got some questions to answer because he says he didn't see the algorithm until it was published on Thursday along with the faulty results. And I think the question will be for ministers over the next few weeks when this is going to be inquired into by the Education Select Committee. What did you ask? And why were you satisfied with the answers? Why didn't you get a look yourself at the algorithm? And if you didn't understand the algorithm, why didn't you get a professional statistician to take a look at it and advise you on whether it would achieve the model? Because after all, using a model and not checking if it works is like putting the prototype on display at the National Motorhome and then selling it to people. Until it's driven on the road, you don't know if it works. And I'm told that in the past it was normal in exams to test the prototypes of moderating systems on draft results to see how they went.